Hey, you're listening to the Bandwagoners. My name is Andy Cole.
And my name's Justin Boniface, and we're bringing you news and notes from around the NHL. It's the first week of the playoffs.
Yes, it is. Playoff game night number 1 for us. We've had about 1 week of playoffs so far.
Yeah.
So this is our first broadcast since they started. A quick shout out to Mobcast, the Mobcast network, which is now hosting our show. Check them out at mobtreal.com, mobtreal.com. So thanks to the Mobcast family for having us. We're quickly going to talk about some awards finalists before we go into the first week of the playoffs. Calder finalists. We got your boy Gallagher.
Yeah, and I think he's actually got a good shot to pull it off. And we got also Jonathan Huberdeau.
Yep.
And I was surprised to not see Yakupov on the list.
Yeah, especially with Brandon Saad from Chicago getting the third pick.
That's Saad, Andy.
Brandon Saad, sorry.
Yeah, he's a little bit sad, but he's Saad.
He's not sad that he's in this category.
No, or actually in his playoffs right now either.
He's had a good year, and he's obviously playing for the high-flying Chicago Blackhawks, which helps, but I am a little surprised to see him in this category. A lot of people thought that Brodin from the Minnesota Wild should have been in there.
Yeah.
Some people still thought Yakupov based on how he turned it on at
the
the
last
end.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do think it's between Gallagher of the Montreal Canadiens and Jonathan Huberdeau.
I believe that's why the third guy doesn't really matter too much. It is between those two.
I mean, I was thinking Huberdeau for the longest time because of how consistent he was all year. But
and Saad got to play with Taves and Kane, and Hossa,
but
whatever.
you kind of changed my mind last show. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how spectacular Gallagher's season was, just considering how he wasn't expected to do that.
No.
Like, he wasn't a high draft pick. He wasn't a top prospect. He was expected to be...
And after we traded Cole, he's on the first line.
Yeah, he was expected to be kind of like a blue-chip grinder, and Gallagher's sort of transformed into one of your best players.
He also has... he had 2 goals in his first 3 playoff games.
Wow.
As well. So 2 goals in his first 2. Yeah.
Unbelievable. One of many players that the Vancouver Canucks overlooked.
Yeah,
did
from
not
the Giants.
pick.
Yeah,
they did not pick.
Size. People overlook size. Montreal's good at that. I mean, Desharnais was picked out of the American League as well.
Well, the Habs have always been
undrafted.
considered to be a really... over the last decade, the Habs have been considered to be a really small team.
Yeah, but they've kept on with that, and it's because you can find talent that people overlook.
Especially in today's NHL, the way the game's played.
Oh, yeah.
Size isn't as relevant as it once was.
Yeah.
Your Vezina nominees, you got Antti Niemi, who the Vancouver Canucks definitely understand is good. He's a good goalie.
Had a great series.
Had a great series. Niemi's quietly been doing some great work in San Jose. Not really talked about in the Vezina category, but a lot of people are not surprised he's in the list. Then you got Bobrovsky.
Probably going to be the one to take it home.
In my opinion, it's his to lose. I mean, I don't see Niemi beating him out for this.
No.
Third pick, I was surprised with was Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I
He's
think
had a decent year.
Yeah, but he always puts up great stats, and I mean, he did play in front of a team that wasn't. He had a lot of shots against. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, one of the reasons he's there is one of higher shots against.
And maybe people figure he was a large factor into the Rangers sort of turning it on at the end and squeaking into a playoff spot.
Yeah,
because for a lot of the season they weren't in the playoffs, right?
That's right.
So I mean, yeah, you definitely got Lundqvist, obviously,
but he won't win it. He hasn't played like he did the year he won it, and in any other year that
I agree.
He's been good. He hasn't played like that. So
no, I totally agree, and I think, as I said, Bobrovsky, the way he played, I mean, as we said before, we really thought, both of us, that Columbus really should be in there as opposed to Minnesota. They should have made the playoffs, and Bobrovsky stood in his head for pretty much 2 months straight. Back-to-back NHL First Star of the Month. Like, he was incredible all year long. And if it wasn't for Anderson's injury, Anderson probably would have been in the Vezina nominee talk. But because he missed
probably competing for it.
Oh yeah, he probably would have been there in place of Lundqvist. But because he only played 20 games or 25 games, that's why he wasn't. So yeah, Vezina, I think Bobrovsky has that locked up. Good to see Niemi there though as well. He's underrated in my opinion of how solid he is. Then Norris Trophy, another Montreal Canadian.
PK Subban made the list along with Chris Letang and
who's always a perennial finalist it seems.
Exactly.
Letang's been consistently one of the best defensemen in the league.
And
for years.
Ryan Suter as well on the list.
Ryan Suter.
I think it's probably going to be Letang. He did play less games.
You think Letang's going to win it?
I think Letang's going to win it. That's what I think it'll happen. He played less games, but his plus minus was just as good as his other. Actually, way better than Suter's.
Yeah.
Suter was like a +2, and Subban and Letang were like +13.
Yeah.
Almost as many minutes as Suter. I know that the
plus minus is misleading though if you play for a good team though.
True. But
you get a lot.
Okay,
of
well then look at Subban.
Yeah. Oh no!
There you go. So plus 13.
Oh no,
Subban not known to excel in that category.
In my opinion, I think it's going to be between. I think it'll be between Subban and Suter. Personally.
So there you go.
I think I think Suter.
One.
Suter has been. It's been the talk around town is that Suter is the favorite only based on the amount of minutes that he played. Like he was just such a workhorse for that team.
Yeah.
I personally would. I think Subban might get it this year.
I would think that would be wicked. I also pick Letang because it seems that a lot Pittsburgh Penguins just kind of get the favorite for anytime they have a candidate in the category like Hart or so it's that'll play into it as well.
This is out of all three of the awards listed so far though, this is the hardest one to call.
It is the closest. I'd agree with you. Gallagher straight up and Bobrovsky straight up.
You can make arguments Subban, Letang, and Suter all deserve it
for different reasons. Exactly.
Okay, well, let's get into the playoffs right now.
First, where should we start? Should we go?
Well, just down the list here. Just down the list that I made.
Cool.
I don't think any specific order, but I mean, I want to talk about this series first just because it's been the most, surprising series out of all of them.
Well, yeah, both of us said Pittsburgh in 4. Oh, I said 4
you said,
or 5.
I said 5, maybe.
But that's already impossible. We're going to 6 minimum.
Yeah.
As the Islanders have pulled off 2 legendary wins.
Unbelievable.
Both coming from behind.
Pittsburgh Penguins versus New York Islanders, a 2-2 series tie.
Jeez.
Who would have seen that coming?
No, and the fact that Vokun has to start Game 5.
Unbelievable.
Because of Fleury's questionable play.
And this is the third year in the row for him now. Fleury, since his cup win, Fleury's been brutal in the playoffs.
And even in the cup win, I always make this argument. He was about as good as Niemi was in Niemi's cup win.
He did make that legendary save against Lidstrom though in
the final. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which could have won it for Detroit. So he sort of has that he's been riding on for all those years. That amazing save off of Lidstrom to win them the cup. But yeah. He's like Luongo in some ways. Well, not this year. Luongo was great for the short time he was in the net, but he reminds me of a lot of Luongo in ways. He gets on himself, he lets in a bad goal, and it just all crumbles.
Yeah.
Marc-Andre Fleury just has that stigma about him where he's like his own worst enemy, much like a Roberto Luongo. Is it the French-Canadian goalie syndrome? What is the deal with that?
Yeah, they all have to be the best. Yeah.
It's like he fights himself more than anyone else. He's always putting himself out of position. How are you? If you're Ray Shero right now? How must you be feeling? Because you put together this legendary team that is a clear-cut favorite to win the cup. Nobody before the playoffs
honestly
thought
don't think that he's worried. I think that the mentality in the dressing room is that Vokun's going to play solid enough to warrant the fact that if they get 4 goals this time, that Vokun's going to let in 3.
Well, now it makes him look like a genius for picking up Vokun. Because in the back of his mind, he even was probably realizing. What if Fleury...
Which might have played into Fleury, going why do we have Vokun here?
Well, because Fleury in the back of his mind, I mean, he gets on himself being maybe they don't believe that I can do it.
Yeah.
And then he stops believing, and...
It's over.
Downward spiral.
Yeah,
so... But, yeah, the fact that the series is tied to 2...
How legendary would it be, though, for Vokun to just come out, stand on his head, shut down the Islanders? The Penguins are, if
and they ride him to the cup.
Exactly. I mean, because, it's the team that's going to win the cup. I mean, you could backstop pretty much any goaltender who's currently in the playoffs, you could probably put them behind the Penguins and they'd still win the cup. So that's what's funny about it is the fact that they could just be, throw in the backup, let's do this.
We're still talking the Pens are going to win this, though. Some people
I still think they will.
Some people are starting to think maybe the Islanders have this extra gear nobody saw them have.
I agree that they do have an extra gear, but I think so do the Penguins, and I don't think they're even playing their best hockey.
No, that's one thing I will say is the Islanders have been playing lights out, Harlem Globetrotters-esque hockey, and the Penguins have been playing very hesitant.
Yeah.
They don't look like they're fully in it 100%. Which, if you're an Islanders fan, might worry you because if the Penguins decide to flip that switch and turn it on, it could be over.
But that's the great thing about hockey. I mean, if you try to turn it on, it doesn't just happen.
No.
And so if the Islanders, keep that pressure up, I think it's going to 7. I don't think we're going to see this in 6.
That would be insane for the Islanders to take
we're going back to Pittsburgh for 5. That house is going to be loud as can be. So they'll probably take that one.
Yeah.
But go back to New York. That's a scary place for Pittsburgh to be in right now, right? Yeah. So it's going to be a great series. It could go down to the wire.
I've been very surprised. It's been one of the more entertaining series of the playoffs. Nobody saw the Islanders doing this, but at the same time, you can't count them out. They got a great squad. Tavares is doing exactly what we thought he would. He's just standing on his head, playing incredible hockey, leading that team. And the Penguins, although they definitely aren't playing 100%, they got some work to do. And as you said, I would be very surprised if this ended in 6. I think it will also probably go to 7 now, which is an incredible story.
Yeah.
And Matt, what would happen if the Islanders won that series?
Oh man! Well, first of all,
how would you feel if you're a Pens fan? You'd just be like, "Are you kidding me? We put together the team that can't lose." It would be like the ultimate David and Goliath scenario. Like it's like that would be one. It would have to be one of the greatest.
The thing about it is like I wouldn't say
history.
that the Islanders is the worst team in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Like
no.
they got
very
eighth, but
very
as far
underrated.
as skill is concerned, I mean, you could name. Let's see, the Ottawa Senators, the Montreal Canadiens, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Even the Boston Bruins, they don't have a player like John Tavares.
No, the Islanders are very
when
underrated.
You can build around a player like that alone, that's a huge leg up for you. When you have somebody who can just take a game into his hands and just play it, and he energizes the people around him. I mean, you got a great base.
They got
the
a lot
Islanders are better than
people think they are.
Exactly.
And they got a lot of young talent that's really emerged in this last year. And a lot of people maybe thought they would be like the Oilers with the Jets, and okay, the talent isn't quite there yet. It's there. It's
Come
arrived.
them going to the second round, honestly, I think one of the only teams to be able to beat them would maybe be Boston. I mean, if you look at New York or Washington or Toronto, like I would say the Islanders would handle them.
Yeah, so that series is definitely not turned out the way we thought it would, but it looks like it's going to be a very exciting finish.
Yeah,
and,
so switch your attention to that if you haven't already.
Oh, Pittsburgh Islanders, watch that series. It's been great. Montreal versus Ottawa.
So this has been a little bit crazy.
3-1 series lead as of now for Ottawa.
Yeah. First of all, as a Montreal Canadiens fan, I'm obviously outraged that that kicking motion goal was
allowed.
Totally allowed.
How do you feel about
it should not have been allowed. Well, first of all, I was on the fence because I was like, it's tough for the ref on the ice, and the video has to completely overrule the call on the ice.
I mean, it does kind of look like he's stopping a little bit.
It's a stopping motion, but Kerry Fraser clearly points out that it's not a natural stopping motion. He changes the progression of his foot, and that's the reason TSN put him on the payroll. Is you're going to review every call that goes through and look at it with a fine-tooth comb.
Fraser's one of the best refs of all time.
And the majority of the time for TSN, Kerry Fraser will go, well, I could see why this and I could see why that. Like, he argues both points. In this article, no goal, no goal, no goal, capital letters several times.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
It is a joke, and it should not have been allowed, and that breaks the shutout.
Yeah.
It's, a lot of people say they're up by 2 goals, it's their responsibility to keep the other lead, and I'll talk about the second goal later. But that breaks a shutout. For a goalie, that's major.
Yeah.
When you break that goose egg, he's shown that chink in the armor, and there's a chance that he could get rattled.
Yep.
So realistically, that call alone could have cost them the game. But then you go down with 1 minute to go in the third period when Carey Price covers up the puck, and the face-off should have happened to Carey Price's left, and so Therrien sends out the appropriate line to win that draw. And for some reason, the refs put the face-off on the other side of the ice. Now, Therrien said he always asks if the shot comes from between the hash marks. He will ask the referee which side it's going to be on because he wants to know which line to put out. But the shot was from the boards. It was as far over as you could get. And they put the face-off on the other side. Again, when you have players out there, they should be able to win a face-off. And I'm not putting the game in the ref's hands. But as far as a game in a ref's hands goes, it was close. There's no reason that should happen. And as far as I'm concerned, this series should be 2-2.
It's frustrating. There's been bad reffing all across the NHL all year, and I mean, obviously we've talked about it on many shows, and we're seeing the trend continue going into the playoffs. We'll get up more into that when we talk about my Canucks. I mean, I, like you, have seen some pretty poor reffing in my series, so the reffing has been bad, and it sucks when the reffing is the story and it's the deciding factor of a game. It's not as bad if the refs suck and the team that loses deserved it, but in your case, the Canadiens were playing just as well as the Sens.
Especially in that game.
And they could have easily won that game, and that call just destroyed it. I will say this, as an outsider looking in, that this has been one of my top 2 series of the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Montreal-Ottawa series, I had no idea you guys would hate each other like you did. The series wasn't
It stems from the Greiba hit, really.
I
mean, even when the first 8 minutes of that game, you couldn't really see a lot of energy or a lot of hate.
That was the catalyst for the entire series.
Yeah.
Up until the Greiba hit, it was kind of dull, I thought, the first 8 minutes. They didn't really, they were kind of just feeling each other out, that the teams weren't really sure of what to make of each other. Then Greiba nails Eller with that massive hit.
Which shook up the Habs. Ottawa took control of that game.
Ottawa did take control of the game. People...
Yeah, we do have to. It's been a week, and I think that this has all been covered, but we haven't covered it.
People were very surprised that Greiba was suspended.
I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, and I can't believe Greiba was suspended. I think he shouldn't have been.
No, it's
a suicide pass.
It was a terrible pass by Diaz, who Eller did not know the pass was coming. And you learn this when you're a kid. Don't pass to a guy if he doesn't know he's accepting it, because Eller puts his head down, and all it takes is a split second, and that's all it is. In the playoffs, if a defenseman or any player for that matter sees his opponent with their head down, he will capitalize on that. That's playoff hockey. This is a professional sport. guys are trained to do this. Eller had his head down, not by his own fault, because Diaz was a retard and passed him that pass, which should not have happened. Eller looks down, and what happens? Greibe clocks him, and Eller's out of the series now.
Yeah.
And Eller's been one of your best players. So that was a huge turning point for the series. And Greibe gets suspended 2 games. And even Shanahan admitted the hit, there was no intent to injure in the hit per se. He was finishing his check.
Yeah.
But the reason he suspended him is because of the severity of the outcome.
Injury, yeah.
But that's not how you suspend players. And Shanahan has been doing this all year and it's been driving me nuts. He's been putting his suspensions on guys based on the outcome.
And it hasn't been as clear. Like there's been, okay, the injury was there, but you could argue the player did this, or you could argue the player did that, or
the outcome should be irrelevant. It's all based on the intent.
Very true.
All
and
based
Shanahan could have made that argument most of the year, but this has been the clearest scenario of you are clearly punishing the injury.
Yeah, when guys are looking at it like, okay, Greibe not the best player, so it's not like a massive loss for Ottawa, but still, you're suspending a guy for 2 games for pretty much just doing his job.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's unfortunate, obviously, what happened to Eller is terrible, and you never want to wish that upon anyone. But this is hockey, man, and this happens. This stuff happens in the game.
And I mean, that's the other thing, is like, it's not as severe as once thought. I mean, his face is going to be messed.
Yeah.
But his concussion's not as bad. He's skating already. So, I mean, like, it's,
But that really turned the series around, and I mean, I predicted that Ottawa would win the series, and obviously you're still gunning for your Habs, and I still definitely think there's a shot the Habs will win it.
Me too, actually, especially
I think
with the home ice advantage.
Yeah.
I'd love to see 7. I'm predicting at this stage we'll lose in Ottawa in the 6th game.
I think it'll probably be a 7-game series too.
But wow, would I love to see 7.
Ottawa's a great team, and a lot of guys I think were counting the Senators out, thinking that the Habs this series would be in the bag for them. But Ottawa's got a great squad,
and
man.
you could also argue Ottawa's had a lot of breaks. I mean, like. A couple of the goals for Ottawa have been a little bit fluky here or there, and they have had a couple calls go.
Well, when Price got injured and you had to put in a cold goalie in overtime, I mean,
but that's the same game as the kick-in motion. I mean, we shouldn't have even been in overtime.
This is true.
Like that night, I don't think I've ever been that furious at hockey in my life of watching hockey. And I've seen my team get last, and I've seen them get knocked out in the first round. I've seen them get swept, and this game. So angry, especially with the season these guys had. They deserve to be here. They deserve to be in a 2-2 series with the Ottawa Senators, if not up 3-1 because of the game 1, like having Eller in that game. Yeah. But in any case, like I normally am very unbiased when I come to watching hockey, and I use my facts, and I'm good at that.
Yeah.
But holy man, this series should not be what it is right now, and they don't deserve to be in this position.
It must be very infuriating for Habs fans. I mean, from a hockey fan's perspective, it has been an incredibly entertaining series. These teams just hate each other now.
And there's some great goals from some young guys. Carlson's tip goal, Subban to the top corner. Gallagher's playing great.
All the guys that we expected to show up have been. I mean, Carlson and Subban have been just battling it out for the top defenseman in the series. They've both been terrific.
Price, I mean, he had a rough third period into game 1 and rough third period in game 3. But game 2, he was a monster. He absolutely stole the show, especially in the second period on the penalty kill.
Which was great to see, seeing as how Anderson was so spectacular in that first game. To have Price come back and
do it. Like,
be like, hey, okay, you can do it, I can do it too.
The fears about Price should be gone. I mean, the consistency is not quite there, but everybody remember he's not in his prime. He's a year or 2 away from that.
Yeah.
The last game wasn't his fault. That's the other thing. It's like he had a shutout going until 11 minutes left in the period when you can apparently kick the puck in.
Yeah, it's been a great series, and I'm really, although I picked Ottawa to win it. I think it's anybody's series still. I think the Habs could easily win it still. Yeah. It's going to be a tough one, and it's going to be a 7-game, I think, and it'll be very exciting. Yeah. So that's definitely a series to watch.
And then one more comment as well is just on the Greibe hit on Eller. The one thing I didn't like about the whole scenario, and the one thing that I've found disagreement in my opinions with, is I didn't like Paul McLean's comments post game about Diaz's suicide pass. Everybody who knows anything about hockey knows it's a suicide pass.
Yeah, you don't have.
You don't go calling out players in the other dressing room. You don't go digging up a sensitive object.
Therrien and McLean, they don't like each other, and that's been one of the most interesting.
It's a great relationship.
It's been hilarious
because I'm sure that they both respect each other majorly out of the way that they argue.
Yeah, that's been one of the most entertaining aspects of the series is how much the coaches go at it.
And Press comment is priceless.
Yeah. The Walrus comment.
Yeah, so good. Yeah.
What did he say in response? He's like, well, I'm not fat, maybe I'm a bit stout or something.
First he said bug-eyed. He's like, that doesn't even really make sense. And then he was like, walrus. He's like, Walrus, that's too easy. Like, come on.
In all fairness, though, he knows he looks like a walrus.
Oh, yeah, that's what he said. He said it's too easy. He's like, come on, like, you gotta try. Like, come on.
I mean, as I've said it before, McLean's my favorite coach right now. I think he's hilarious. I think he's a great coach. I love his battle with Therrien, because in my mind, those are the two best coaches in the league right now, going at it.
And in the series, I would say Therrien has been the better coach.
His matchup's been terrific.
We were talking about that in the last show, and I can't remember the specific example right now, but there was a couple times where I was thinking McLean should have made different decisions.
Yeah.
In the same scenario where I was like yelling at Vigneault for making bad decisions.
Yeah, well, I mean,
like pulling goalies, taking timeouts. That's what it was.
The timeout scenario was hilarious because McLean just did it to piss him off. You could totally tell. He's like, okay, well, I don't like Therrien very much, so timeout.
But it was funny because the game before, Montreal scored 2 quick goals, and McLean didn't pull a timeout, and that's when you do it.
The mind games are hilarious, though, and good coaches do this. Like, they battle. The battle off the ice is just as important as the battle on the ice. I said it before last show. And, I mean, the coaching aspect of it, a lot of people forget about it, but the coach plays a massive role in the outcome of the team's destiny. And I think these two guys going at it right now... Sorry, we're watching live the Boston-Toronto series. It's 3-3 right now, 1 minute to go in the third, and Boston just about scored, so I apologize if I...
Oh, and so did Kessel on the other end.
I apologize if we lose interest momentarily.
We just start going play-by-play. We just turn into...
Screw this, let's watch some hockey! Yeah, because there's hockey
going on. Kessel's down behind the net.
There's hockey going on right now, so we're kind of watching it as we're talking. But yeah, the Montreal-Ottawa series, in my eyes, has been one of the best series, so definitely watch that one. Now, the next series, in my eyes, has been the most boring series. Not totally surprising.
We're hopping over to the West now, by the way, apparently.
Yeah, okay. Well, hey, my list makes no sense.
And he's also sick and delirious.
Yeah, that's true. I'm seeing visions right now. Chicago versus Mini. Chicago has a 3-1 series lead over Minnesota.
We were pumped for the Blackhawks to storm this, and for it to be exciting for hockey fans to see a lot of cool, creative, and exciting goals.
But man, has it been boring.
So dead. And I guess we should have predicted this because of the Minnesota Wild and the way that they play hockey.
Yeah, they're like, well, the only chance we have is to shut them down at every possible corner.
Which would be nothing against the Chicago Blackhawks, except the Blackhawks aren't really trying that hard. So it's really this kind of like...
That game Minnesota won, Chicago didn't even show up. They're just like, whatever, we'll give them a game.
It's like an NHL team playing an AHL team, and the NHL team knows they have to go easy on them, and the AHL team is playing as tight defensively as physically possible. Yeah. It's so stubborn. It's just if you're watching that series, we told you not to watch the Blues versus Kings. Switch!
And we were dead wrong about that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anything you got for the Hawks, you got more than I do, I think, for that one.
Oh, well, I found it funny how Minnesota, both of their goalies so far have been injured in this series, both off of shots, off of warm-ups. Backstrom and then Harding, the next game, both got injured from their own players' shots during a warm-up, which I found to be...
Harding came back and did play part of that game.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he did. I'm not saying they were fully out of it, but Backstrom missed the first game with an injury. Harding had to go in, and Harding played decently for a couple of games, and then in the third game he got injured and didn't end up finishing the game, and they had to play their third string goalie for their fourth game, which I think it was a shutout.
3-0.
Chicago won 3-0. Yeah. So that was kind of hilarious to see Minnesota's both of their goalies getting injured in the exact same way, and it looks like Backstrom might be forced to play the next game, although he's not well. He's injured. And Canucks fans can attest to what it's like to put in an injured goalie when they're not ready. So, I mean, Baxter might be playing the next game. Not that it matters. I don't think Minnesota has a prayer in the series. But it was pretty crazy to see Minnesota put in their third string in the playoffs. The guy's never played a playoff game in his life.
Did you know Harding had MS?
Yes, multiple sclerosis.
That is, I found that. I learned it only a couple weeks ago.
It's something he's always kept quiet. He never really wanted to...
Very impressive.
He never really wanted to focus too much on it. The fact that a guy can play at that level with that kind of disability is...
Unreal.
Insane.
Yeah.
Like, that's just... But I can understand why he would not want to talk about it, because he wouldn't want people to make a big deal out of it.
No, exactly.
But I'm making a big deal out of it.
Well, you have to. When it becomes public knowledge, and when you play like he's played, especially this year.
Harding's been terrific.
And in the playoffs, the 2 games he did play, he was great.
He was,
yeah. So,
I mean, Chicago is winning the series, but Minnesota has not made it easy for them. Yeah. They've played better than people thought. But at the same time, Chicago hasn't really showed up, so I'm still thinking the series probably will end in 5. Now you got... Vancouver versus the San Jose Sharks.
A sweep. Nobody could have ever called this.
No.
The statements right now in some of the articles are, is this the start to San Jose's LA-type run?
Maybe.
Well, the way I look at it is more often than not, the team that wins the Stanley Cup does have to accomplish at least one sweep. That's the way it seems to go.
Actually, it's funny you say that, because there is a statistic, I can't remember where I read it, but 4 of the last 5 teams that beat the Canucks in the first round won the Stanley Cup.
Oh, and Montreal's probably similar to that. And this year, if we lose to Ottawa, that might not be the case. But we also lost to the Bruins in the first round.
Or goes to the final. Sorry,
and we lost.
We've
lost to every Eastern Cup champion. I'm pretty sure we lost to, all the way back to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah. What I meant to say was every team that's beaten the Canucks in the first rounds, 4 of the 5 last years, have gone to the finals, not necessarily the Cup. But yeah, I mean, San Jose has always had the ability to be a Cup winner. They've just been the consummate choke artist.
Which is what we always say.
Yeah, much like the Canucks, they've just not been able to pull it off. And maybe this is San Jose's year. I still don't think so. I think they just beat a Canucks team that was defeated before the season started, before the series started.
But that could give you a major boost.
It could. I think San Jose could go to the conferences. I wouldn't pick them as a Cup winner.
No, I don't think they're going to be able. And not to say anything against San Jose's skill, I just don't think they're going to be able to beat the Chicago Blackhawks.
No, I don't think so either. I mean,
or the Anaheim Ducks for that matter, if they make it.
Yeah, San Jose is a good team, and they deserved this win. I obviously picked my Canucks as a homer before the series started, but in my heart of hearts, I felt it could have gone either way. They were two evenly matched teams. I did think it would probably go to at least 6 games, regardless of who won.
Shocking.
I was very surprised with the sweep. The one silver lining in this for Canucks fans is change now is finally coming. Vigneault has probably seen his last days as a Canuck.
Could you imagine if it didn't?
That would be a shocker. If he doesn't get fired, then Gillis will probably get let go. So that's probably what would happen at that point.
Who do you look for to replace those roles?
I don't know, man. I don't know who's out there. Some people are saying Lindy Ruff, but I don't know if I'd want him. That's a topic for another day. I really haven't thought enough about it, and I don't really know who is out there. But all I know is Vigneault needs to go. I really felt after the loss to LA in the playoffs last year, Vigneault should have been let go. But based on the lockout, that did mess a lot of scheduling, administration stuff. The lockout did mess up a lot. A lot of Gillis's plans in the offseason were kind of halted by the lockout. So I think a lot of the changes we expected to see last year, because of the lockout, didn't happen. Now we'll probably see them this offseason, which means this year was kind of a write-off for us, but it was a write-off for a lot of teams, the lockout season.
I mean, that's the thing about a lockout season is that there's still a chance to win a Stanley Cup. You got to, give it your all like you would in a regular season, and ultimately it looks like those administration decisions are what bit the Canucks in the butt. Because the roster they had clearly was good enough to make it to the playoffs, and definitely good enough to win some games against the Sharks, which just didn't happen.
No, I really feel like this era is over, and I mean, the 2011 Cup run was really our best shot at a Cup, and they didn't do it. So I think change needs to happen. Obviously, one of the goalies will get moved. Some are even saying it might be Schneider now. Your core is going to be drastically different. Lots of guys think Edler might get moved.
Do you worry about the ownership or the administration's confidence in Schneider now?
Yeah, I think there's a chance
because I don't think he's at all to blame for the playoffs.
No, not at all. The whole team played terribly. I still can't believe they put Schneider in the third game. To be honest,
yeah, but even if he played bad, that's what I'm saying. Like he had an excuse to play bad, coming off injury, going in cold, down 2-0.
He shouldn't have been put in.
And Lou was playing great.
He was our best player.
Not only do you set him up for even if Lou was playing like crap, it's tough to come in as a goalie, cold off injury, down 2-0. But you got to follow Lou. You got to follow a performance that was legendary. I mean, even though they got beat, Lou stood on his head in most of those games.
I think that was AV's sort of killing blow to his career with the Canucks.
Should have kept him in net.
Luongo should have played that series through.
Vigneault was probably gone anyway, but
he was our best player. Luongo should have played. It wouldn't have mattered, I don't think. I mean, as terrible as the reffing was, which I'll get into in a second, I don't think it would have mattered. San Jose was the better team. Even if the reffing was fine and our goaltending was stellar across the board, I still think San Jose would have beaten us. They just were the better team this round, and hats off to them for the sweep. But I think there's a lot of changes coming. Edler might get moved. You might see a guy like Burrows get moved. There's even talk of the Sedins, if they're willing to waive their no-trade clause, possibly getting moved. The reason something drastic has to happen is really because our core is now too old. It's not that you have to blow it up and rebuild and start from scratch, but you do have to get noticeably younger. And that's something I know Gillis realizes, and I know that's going to be a focus going forward. Now, the silver lining there also is
he's allowed to make moves with teams that are not in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I'm using that word silver lining a lot for some reason. I don't know why. I just noticed that
because you need one.
I've said it like 4 times.
Yeah, well, it's hard to find one right now.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
either one of us.
Yeah, but I think there's a nice little thing here is that our defense looks really good in youth. Tanev and Corrado, who's come out of nowhere. We got a top 4 pairing now for the next decade, and that's been nice because the Canucks youth core has been really depleted over the years because we've been trading away all these draft picks over the past 5 years to get this cup run team, sort of putting all your eggs in one basket, which is the right move to do at that time. But when you're finally past that stage, it kind of bites you in the butt because now we don't really have any youth. We don't have a lot of young guys, other than Schneider and Cassian. And Schneider's not even that young; he's 27. Other than Cassian, Tanev, and Corrado, there's not a lot of youth. So I know the Canucks, Gillis especially, is looking at the team going, okay, we need to get younger. There needs to be some bold, drastic moves. Gillis needs to get bold. He needs to do what Burke did when he started here. He needs to make some big changes. And Gillis, as much as I like him, he pretty much just inherited Burke's team and tinkered with it. Gillis has to make this his team now. He's got to do what Burke did, do the bold move, get your team younger, set yourself up for some success in the future. Burke did a great job with the Canucks before he left, and Gillis, in my opinion, got a bit lucky in the team that he inherited.
That happens with all of
and now he's got to show what he's capable of.
That happens with, like, you'd think Burke would be able to keep a job for longer than 3 to 5 years because, I mean, every time he leaves, the next GM goes, I'll just tweak this and tweak that, and away we go.
Anaheim, he left them, and they were great. He left
Toronto.
And they are
now
great.
in the playoffs. Like, same season.
Yeah.
And it's only a half season.
Yeah.
Like, come on. I don't even like Burke. Give him a break, though.
He's a great GM. Oh, nobody, as much as people hate Burke, nobody.
I wonder if that's what it is.
Nobody argues that he's not a brilliant
But
GM.
you could argue that's the thing with him is like his relationships within the administration, the organization.
That's usually what cost him his job.
It's just like he's a jerk.
Yeah, well, his personality is usually what cost him his job, which is hilarious to think about that because as a GM, he's actually terrific.
Yeah, and that's where his ability will come from.
Now, a lot of Canucks fans are going to be talking about the series, blaming it on the reffing. I don't blame it on the reffing. The reffing was brutal, but it wouldn't have mattered. We just weren't playing well. And even if we had calls going our way, it wouldn't have mattered. We weren't able to kill off San Jose's power play, which is ironic considering our penalty killing was one of our few bright sides of the year. And we just weren't able to solve that power play. So even if the refs were good, it wouldn't have really mattered. So I'm not going to use the reffing as an excuse. But I will say, I do find it kind of funny when the series ends and it's a 3-1 differential for calls. San Jose had 3 more power plays per one than we did. Like they ended the series with 27, 28 power plays.
And it got more lopsided as it went along, as I understood. Like the last game that I watched, the first penalty to Vancouver was like with 5 minutes to go in the second period, and I'd seen at least 4 or 5 San Jose power plays.
Yeah. So, I mean, San Jose was getting a lot of power plays, and we were not. I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist here, but seriously, there has to be something going on. The refs just don't like the Canucks. I don't know how else to explain it. Maybe it's from their past reputation of being whiners and divers, and let's be honest, 5 or 6 years ago, you could make that argument that some guys...
there are undisciplined teams, and there are embellishers, and the thing with embellishment is if you're good at it, then you're going to get the call, because you can't really blame a guy for diving if he falls down. And so, realistically... like, yeah, you could say that they might have been 20-10 or they might have been 25-10 or whatever, but they're, as a person who's not really hot on the Canucks, I completely agree with Andy in the sense that at least, 5, 10, 15% of these calls were biased, like straight up. Like the goaltender interference call in Game 2, the penalty to Daniel Sedin in overtime.
Which ultimately cost us the series.
Which cost them the whole series. That definitely get calls that should not have been made straight up that are like, that you're just like, really?
It's annoying when the refs decide a series based on past history. I mean, the refs just don't like the Canucks. They haven't for years based on their old reputation. A reputation which, by and large, now is gone.
Some of those players did earn it, though.
Yeah, in the past they did, but they've cleaned up their act in recent years. They're not still known as that team that they were 5 or 6 years ago. They've definitely gotten better in recent years, but
the stigma.
There was a clear bias there, and it's just something they haven't been able to shake. AV as well is not liked amongst referees. There's no secret there.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, he's not liked well. The guy that called the penalty, which ultimately cost us the series, Kelly Sutherland, is the same guy that called Vigneault on that penalty when he...
Oh, really?
The bench minor.
That's interesting.
So Kelly Sutherland and Vigneault have a history going back many years. Sutherland actually did that to Vigneault when he was coaching the Habs a couple times.
I'm wondering, how does that go about in the NHL? Like, can you register a complaint? Like, if
you can't. That's the thing.
Because a referee is clearly it's one thing for a referee to kind of be biased against a team, and they can kind of get away with it because you can kind of make those calls look like they should have been made. But when you look year over year of one referee and one coach specifically move through organizations and penalties called specifically against him, you got to be able to defend yourself to the league.
It's unfortunate because the referees, the NHL has made their refs untouchable, and there's nothing you can really do. You just kind of got to suck it up and move along. And I mean,
you can punch him in the face.
This is not new for Canucks fans. I mean, 2011, when we really could have won the Cup that year. The same thing happened in the finals against the Bruins. I mean, the calls were all going the Bruins' way. One little tap by one of our players, we'd get a penalty, and then you got Marchand headlocking,
grabbing the collar,
grabbing the collar of Daniel and Henrik, and not getting anything. So I mean, this isn't new for Canucks fans. They've seen the bias in the reffings over the years. It's just unfortunate because you don't want to use it as an excuse, because the good teams, you will find a way to fight through it, which is the case. So I'm not saying...
And those teams that you bring in question, like you already talked about San Jose being a stronger team in the
so
series.
I'm not using the
Boston Bruins.
I'm not using the reffing as an excuse to the reasons why we've lost this year or in past years, but it is getting old. I mean, the reffing is getting old in the sense that it's clear now to not just media in Vancouver, but media abroad. Like, there were comments all across the league about the series of it being the worst ref series, and this is including the Montreal-Ottawa series.
Which I agree.
The Vancouver-San Jose series was the worst ref series of the bunch, and it's to the point where even media in San Jose are like, guys, come on, like, you're calling us like once a game and you're calling them 10 times a game. What's going on? And it sucks because you can see the bias there. You can see the refs don't like the Canucks, but what can you do? You just got to find a way to battle through it.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. I'm disappointed the way it ended, but secretly in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is good. The Canucks need this. They need to be retooled. It should have happened last year, but it didn't because of the lockout. So maybe this sweep will finally force them to make some changes which needed to be made.
And as a fan, it is exciting. I mean, you get to see some new faces in the dressing room, and that'll be interesting. And ideally, some new talent. I mean, like, especially we talk about the Sedins being on the block now because of their lack of performance in the playoffs, in several different series now.
Yeah.
You could get some major young talent for the Sedin twins.
Some
major draft picks for the Sedin
We were talking about this before the show, but the core of the Vancouver Canucks, Gillis has locked pretty much all of them up to no trade clauses. So that'll make it difficult. But at the same time, if they go somewhere they want to go and you can get the offer back that you want, there's rumors that New Jersey, for example, who desperately needs a goalie since Brodeur might be retiring, might be willing to parlay Adam Henrique into a trade.
There you go. That's a major pickup.
That's a major pickup. There's rumors that Carolina, based on cap woes, might
be
willing...
Don't say Jeff Skinner.
Actually, that was the rumor.
Don't.
Yeah, there's rumors that Carolina might be willing to move Jeff Skinner.
That's stupid on Carolina's part. He's more valuable than, like, I would say Eric Stahl. Like,
yes,
do not get rid of
But
Skinner.
no, but it's a trade they're forced into based on their GM's inadequacies and signing their guys to ridiculous contracts. It's not a move they would do because they wanted to. It's a move they would do because they realize
they were up against the wall.
Well, yeah, we got 1 year left in this guy's term. He's going to ask for $7 million.
But they don't need a goalie. That's the thing.
No, I'm talking about possibly like a Sedin thing,
Gotcha.
or moving a Kessler, or moving a Burrows. These are the bold moves the Canucks will have to look at to get better and get younger. And if a guy like Jeff Skinner's available, you jump on that.
Oh, are you kidding me? That's one of the best pickups you could make as far as anybody under the age of 23 is concerned.
I'll also say before we move on to the next series, because I've been spending way too long with this, fire the freaking scouts, because the Canucks haven't drafted well since the Sedin twins, and that was a decade ago, or 15 years ago, sorry. So we need new scouts. So not only do we need a new back office, but we need new scouts as well.
You think that problem would be addressed like long ago, because realistically there's not a lot of major media discussion, there's no pressure, they're scouts. Like, just get rid of them and get some scouts.
I can't think of another team off the top of my head that's drafted as poorly as the Canucks in recent years. Like, their draft picks have sucked. And it also doesn't...
you watch the draft like I do? Do you find they're picking off the charts, or do you find they're picking where TSN's analysts have those players?
They're picking strangely, but that's half of it. The other half of it is the good picks they do make end up getting traded. Like, Gillis trades his picks for Keith Ballard. It's so funny. I was listening today. Keith Ballard, to get that player, in essence, based on all the moves that were made around him to get him into the organization, who wasn't even dressed in the playoffs, I should add, to get Keith Ballard, not only did we give up Michael Grabner, we gave up a first-round pick and a second-round pick. The first-round pick, I want to say, turned out to be Dougie Hamilton of the Boston Bruins.
No way!
And the second-round pick turned out to be, it was a very surprise pick. It turned out to be, I think he plays for...
So you could say you'd probably have Grabner and Hamilton.
I was going to say Corey Conarcher, but it was something like that. It turned out to be like a Conarcher-type player who was a late second-rounder and just like turned into this like stud. So the Canucks' inadequacies with trading... A lot of guys are like, fire Gillis before firing AV. I'm of the mind you should really probably fire both of them. I understand Gillis will probably be here for another...
I think they're both... Oh, really? I think, like, from what I've read, it sounds like they're both gone.
I think GMs get more leeway. Like, coaches, on average, spend around 3 to 4 years per team. GMs usually get 8 or 9. And the reason that is because you could argue a GM does need X amount of years to build a team.
How many has Gillis had now?
He's on his 5th year.
And his moves have been more poor than good.
He's had like 2 or 3 great trades and like 4 or 5 or 6 bad ones. So he's had a few good ones, but large...
And the bad ones, like, you could argue were bad before they were made. Like
yes.
The Hodgson one, the Grabner one.
I don't count the Hodgson one, because Hodgson won it out. So
okay.
That trade sucked.
I think you could have got more, but
that trade, yeah, but we couldn't. Like
yeah.
It was like a last minute. He said I want out, and Gillis is like, oh damn it, okay, well fine, we'll take Cassian, who I still
Which
think
is weird. How are you?
I still think Cassian will be great. I think people are expecting too much out of Cassian. He's going to be a good player. He's a lot like a Todd Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi didn't come into his own until he was 25, 26. Cassian's only 22. I expect Cassian will be a very good player, but he needs a few more years.
How do you go about approaching a trade request when you're a player with no tenure and no experience at all?
Because Gillis probably saw that and was like, well, I guess we can get something good in return for him, so he went ahead and made the move.
Because he thought the value was high enough at the
point. And it was.
Because you could force you could force him to stay in the organization.
You could.
No, I'm not trading you.
You could, but
Gillis probably just play like crap.
Well, AV probably wouldn't have played him. He wouldn't have been dressed. He would have just been in the minors. And that goes back to AV's not liking young talent. AV is largely to blame for Hodgson winning out. AV is also largely to blame for Grabner getting traded, and there are a couple other young talented players
you can't do that.
Which we let go. Outside of Vancouver, a lot of guys don't know that we let go of a kid named Sergei Shirokov, who currently plays in the KHL.
Yeah.
And Shirokov went on to have back-to-back 60-goal years in the KHL. He was projected to be a top 3 player, very much like a Pavel Bure, which is funny considering Bure was a Canuck.
To him?
Vigneault didn't dress him. He didn't play him.
And so he
even after Gillis.
Russia?
Yeah, Gillis was like, you got to play this kid. He's going to be a star. You got to play this kid. And he gave him 2 games. He got 2 points in those 2 games, and then he demoted him. I don't know why. Nobody knows.
So what did Shirokov do? He just signed in Russia?
Yeah, went back to the KHL, which a lot of Russian players do. If they don't feel like they're getting the playing time out here, they will go back somewhere where they can be stars. And Shirokov is now a star in that league, which is arguably, talent-wise, very close to the NHL. It's the closest league, talent per talent, anyways. A lot of the Russian teams have 30 NHLers on their team, that's just that. It's a very talented league. So Shirokov ended up going because of Vigneault's lack of trust, I guess. I don't know, but that's something I've always gone off about Vigneault not playing the young players, and it ended up costing us.
I knew that it was an issue. I didn't know it was this big of an issue.
It's always been an issue in the city, but not something that's ever really been focused on.
To do that's stupid. To not play a Yakupov, to not play a Huberdeau, to not play a Crosby, that's just stupid.
The reason it wasn't
stupid. The reason you give them time in the NHL to develop, because they're not a regular player. You don't develop them in the AHL because it's a shooting gallery.
Yeah.
It's not fun. There's no challenge. They're not developing. You bring them to the NHL. They work their butts off because they want to break some records and stuff.
The reason it wasn't talked about was because for the past 5 years we've had, President's Trophy winning teams. So the argument was, well, we got so much talent on this roster, we don't have room for them, or we're going to make such a deep run, we don't need to worry about the young talent right now. We got to sort of, as I said, put all of our eggs in one basket and just go for it. That theory makes sense in a way, but now that those days have passed, boy, do they look stupid for letting all that young talent go, because now we have very little of it. Yeah. And Vigneault and AV, I should say, or Gillis, sorry, is in a position now where he's got to get the young talent back, which he either A, traded away, or B, allowed Vigneault to corrupt.
So I have to do this, but we're currently at 43 minutes and have only covered 4 series.
Okay, so we got to go quicker. We normally never spend this long talking about the Canucks. It's just my team just got eliminated from the playoffs. That's why.
It is the first elimination, so fair enough.
Yeah.
Also, you had to take a chance at the opportunity that I never talk about the Canucks, so there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so now that I've done my bitching and complaining about the Canucks and what they need to do, we'll move on. So, yeah, sucks to see Vancouver out of it. Good, though, because changes are coming. So, Boston-Toronto, which is currently 3-3 in overtime. Boston leads the series 2-1.
Oh, good chance by Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto-Boston has probably been one of my top 3 series. I picked Boston to win the series. I still think they will.
As did I, and I agree.
But at the same time, if Toronto could find that extra gear, which they showed they had yesterday when they won, or which they showed they had. Sorry, which they showed they had two games ago.
I can't wait to listen to this broadcast and just hear reactions every minute.
I know, we're like, oh, geez, no. I know. Imagine being in Toronto right now. Toronto winning that third game was huge for them because it showed the city of Toronto and it showed the Boston Bruins that they belong there.
Yeah.
And that they are a great team and that they have the ability to win the series. Toronto could win the series. It is not out of the realm of possibility.
They have to win right now to pull it off, I'd say. If they're down 3-1, it's over.
I highly agree with that. But I will say it was amazing to see Air Canada Center for that last game.
Oh yeah,
that was the loudest building I think I've ever seen in my entire life, save for that Boston building after the bombings,
or the first game in Winnipeg when they came back to Canada.
Yeah, that's true. That was the same as well. Oh,
no chance.
Okay, this is going to be a very comical broadcast to listen to. So Toronto has to win it, and they're playing right now. They're playing their hearts out. And and Reimer stops it. Okay, yeah, so they got to win this series. It's been very, very, very exciting.
I would say that a lot of the thing with Toronto is they probably would be way more competitive now. It's just they haven't had those guys step up. Like Kadri had a weak start, Kessel had a weak start. Reimer has actually been a shining star in the series. I would say
he's been very good.
Silenced some critics there.
He's equal to the task of Rask, I'd say right now. And they've both been playing great.
The scary thing is Boston hasn't been stunning.
No. Well, that's the thing, is Boston's kind of been like a Chicago. They've been playing well, but they haven't been playing 100%.
Their physical game, I would say, is at its peak. There's definitely, the hits and the fighting, it's all there.
But they definitely haven't been playing their A game.
I haven't seen Sagan do anything crazy, or Marchand go try and, break into the net nuts.
I will say this, pat myself on the shoulder, Lucic's at 7 assists right now.
There you go. So
and Lucic I was like, okay, Lucic had a bad year, but the guy's a playoff performer, and I've been proven right.
There you go.
So, yeah, I mean, Oh!
That wasn't even worth getting excited over.
I thought maybe there was a steal there. Boston, based on the fact that they've been playing just sort of average, I think they'll still win it. And Toronto's been playing just out of this world to stay in this series. Yeah. So I'm still thinking Boston will take it, but Toronto's been playing really well, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that Toronto wins tonight. Who knows?
Yeah, I personally don't care either way. I despise both teams equally, so as long as one of them goes out now and the other in the second round, I'm happy.
Yeah, because realistically, you guys don't do well against either team.
Yeah. No.
Oh.
That hit the post. I don't know... right now, I would say I want Washington to win so that we face them when Pittsburgh wins, but of course that's now a question mark. So really, I was cheering for a lot of teams because of the matchups, but now it's more to do with my predictions. I'd like to be right because clearly the Montreal Canadiens are not looking like they're worried about a second round matchup at this point in time.
They're just worried about surviving.
So Boston, Toronto, put your eyes towards that one if you haven't already, especially if Toronto ties this right now. That would be an amazing last couple of games.
I would love to see Toronto win it. I hate the Bruins so much. I mean, they're a great team, but I hate them. So I would love to see the Leafs win it. It's weird because most people hate the Leafs because they're the Leafs. I don't really have a problem with that team. I only
don't like them because I'm a Canadian.
Yeah, I mean, if I was in your position and I was playing them 10 times a year, I'd probably hate them more than I do, but I don't really have any issue with the Leafs, so I would love to see them knock off Boston, but realistically, I still think this is the Bruins series to lose. Yeah. Washington Rangers...
This one will take the least amount
of time.
Yeah,
this to me has been the most boring series next to Chicago, Minnesota. I don't find it overly entertaining.
Ovechkin's been decent. I mean, the thing is, you can see his skill is there, but he's not having to push himself around.
I don't feel either team's played particularly well, though. That's the thing. Washington is up on the series 2-1.
New York's played like they've played all year, though. They're not playing particularly well, but apparently this is what this roster looks like because they've had 48 games plus to look better, to look like they look like on paper, and we haven't seen it.
The Rangers won tonight, actually.
So there you go. So that series is now tied.
Yeah, it's now it's 2-2 series
but
tied.
Again, it's not like phenomenal hockey. Right now, it looks like if either of those teams made it into the second round, any number of Eastern Conference teams would just knock them right out.
Yeah, Stepan's been playing very well. He's sort of coming to his own. He's a young star that's never fully emerged. Oh, shoot! Why don't you shoot?
Idiot.
What is this, the Canucks I'm watching?
Finith!
Yeah, so, I mean, the Washington Rangers series is tied at 2-2. It'll probably go to 7 games. I don't really care. It's been a boring series. Next, LA versus St. Louis.
Best series of the
playoffs. We were so wrong. We both picked this to be the sleeper series.
We're sorry if you listened to us and skipped the first 4 games.
Yeah.
Wow.
The St. Louis-LA series has been incredible. Every game has just been insane. The matchup is so perfect. They're so evenly matched.
Who would have thought that St. Louis would try to match LA offensively? The defensive physical game is there. The goaltending is spectacular.
But that's the thing is St. Louis does have this scoring ability that they just sort of, because of Hitchcock's system, they just sort of don't utilize fully.
Yeah.
And now because of LA's offensive prowess, Hitchcock's smart enough to realize, okay,
it's time to trade chances.
Yeah, and now LA's probably just like, crap. Because St. Louis has got some great skill. I mean, Pietrangelo can score. You got TJ Oshie who can score, Tarasenko can score, Perron can score, Backes, who's been amazing, he can score. So they are a very, very evenly matched team, and whoever comes out of this series is going to be decimated because there's been an average of over 80 hits a game for the series, which is, I think, double the second highest hits average of the series.
And Kessler did make a good point that I agree with, is that if you, like both talking about the Vancouver series and just how physical the St. Louis series is that check that Sedin made in overtime that got him the boarding penalty.
Which cost him the series.
Which cost him the series. You see that play about every 30 seconds in the LA St. Louis series, and that's no joke. Kessler's not screwing around like that series. Yeah. If they called the penalties they did on Vancouver, you'd have like 100 penalty minutes a game in this series.
Oh, the refs have just swallowed the whistle.
The players would be afraid of each other.
The refs have swallowed the whistle in the St. Louis LA series by force because they realized if they called those penalties, each game would take 10 years. You know, like it's just like it's been such an entertaining series. I think LA still has the ability to repeat as a Cup finalist. I think they could.
I think they're going to win the series, honestly, especially seeing as the first game went to overtime and Quick handed the puck to the St. Louis player on a silver platter while they were on the power play.
What a terrible
LA was on a 4-minute power play.
Quick has played a lot better since then, though. Quick has been terrific since then.
Oh, and he was terrific in that game.
He was terrific.
If anything, the way I look at it is Quick went game 1. Okay, he plays great, and then he makes a mistake. Game 2, got to make up for that mistake. Stood on his head and still lost. Yeah. Quick's like, what do I have to do? Well, you know the answer to that, and it's supposed to goose egg, and he did it. So he, from game 1, was playing some of the best goaltending he's played all year, and elevated it in game 2 and game 3 as well. So that's what it takes to be a Stanley Cup champion goaltender. Yeah. Quick is proving he's like a lot of players in the sense that his regular seasons may not be great, but his playoff numbers are spectacular.
Elliott's been great as well for St. Louis.
That's the scary thing is, I mean, this series is going to probably go 7 strictly because no matter how many chances you give the LA Kings, Elliott has been just as nuts as Quick.
They've both been trading chances left, right, and center. Both
if Quick
very,
didn't
very
screw
even.
up in the overtime that game, we could have been like on the first game of the playoffs into like 4 or 5 overtimes. Yeah. It was that good.
Very, very exciting series. Actually, it's on right now, so I'll just update the score. LA is winning 1-0 right now, 17-15 to the second off of a Jeff Carter goal, who's been terrific.
Yeah, he has been terrific. And again, LA's full of these guys. As long as they make the playoffs, most of their players are playoff performers. Even Kopitar.
Carter had the 4th most goals of the year, though, so I mean, it's not surprising he's doing well.
True.
But guys like Richards and Kopitar and Brown, who were kind of invisible all year,
they're showing up. Brown got a goal the other night.
Yeah, and Doughty's looked great as well. Yeah. So LA could go far. I think St. Louis, I picked them as my bandwagon team to win the Cup. I think, bold prediction, I'm willing to bet you that whoever wins this series goes to the conference final.
Because keep in mind, you also just said that whoever wins that series is getting knocked out because of the pure physicality.
I was sort of saying that tongue in cheek. Like whoever survives the series will be decimated, but I think they'll be on such a wave that I'm pretty confident whoever wins LA St. Louis will go to the conferences. I have a feeling.
Unless, of course, they come up against Chicago right away, which would be great.
Who decides to just turn it on all of a sudden?
Because you'd have an excellent Chicago team versus a very, very hot LA or St. Louis, so that would be great.
A very good series as well. Yeah. So that series has been terrific. Best one of the playoffs so far. Definitely watch it. It's been a lot of fun and very physical. Last series we got to talk about briefly because we're coming close to the end of the show.
We got time. This will be easy.
Detroit versus Anaheim. I predicted Anaheim to win the series. I still think they will, but Anaheim was definitely counting Detroit out a little bit. I think they thought they'd have a much bigger time with the Red Wings,
and if you'll recall,
just because they squeaked in. But this is the Red Wings, man. You can't take the Red Wings lightly.
Which is exactly what I said. I said Anaheim in 6 or 7 because they will take the Red Wings for granted. They're going to be like, oh, these guys are old guys. We can take them down.
Yeah, no way.
They got moved.
Did you see that Datsuk snipe? That Datsuk
legendary.
Goal.
And Howard has been excellent.
He's been great.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Hiller's been insane. Hiller's been so good. He's been terrific.
Yeah.
So Detroit versus Anaheim has been a very entertaining series, which we all knew it would be.
What do you think about the?
I think that'll go to 6 or 7.
What about the Anaheim Stars though? Like to me, they've been a little bit quieter than they could have been.
The Anaheim Starters, you said.
Stars.
Oh, star players.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I guess
I'm thinking like Anaheim is Dallas now.
Yeah.
The Anaheim Stars have been decent, but that definitely scares Detroit because Detroit has been playing like lights out because they have to. Yeah. And Anaheim's been coasting a little bit.
Yeah, they could wake up. So Bobby Ryan, I think, has been the strongest of the 3, which says a lot because he's not the strongest player.
No, but if it's true. If Getzlaf and Perry really decide to turn it on, series is over.
Yeah.
But it would be insane to see Detroit win the series and then go up against like a Chicago or something.
Yeah.
What a match!
And as we saw with Vancouver, I mean, what your skill level on paper means absolutely nothing. I mean, they didn't win a single game.
Yeah.
There's no way anybody in the hockey world could have predicted that. Like maybe Maggie the monkey, but that's about it.
Oh, well, she needs to make an appearance again.
She kind of died.
Oh,
they don't live very long.
Oh,
she had to go back to the zoo because she was getting super old.
They
gotta
have a backup monkey then.
A backup monkey.
Yeah, a backup
monkey. Just a bunch of cages in the back.
Yeah. They got to. I mean, especially with, we should mention this briefly, two of our idols in the industry, Jay Onrait and Dan O'Toole, are leaving Canada at the end of this season to go to a lucrative contract with Fox Sports. So great for them because that's huge for their careers. But now there's no more Onrait or O'Toole.
I know, it sucks. Good thing for like social media. I mean, you and me will still follow them as closely as we possibly can.
Oh, they're two of the best broadcasters.
Jay and Dan,
business.
if you ever hear this, please rip Fox as much as you rip Bell. That would be so gorgeous. They deserve it, and I'm sure you know it. Obviously, I mean, you put your feet in the door and not burn your bridges. But they're going to have a lot of fun with that company, and I think they're going to have a little bit more freedom, which is why.
Yeah, well, actually, I listen to a lot of talk radio, especially late at night, and the bulk of Team 1040's talk radio at night is actually Fox Sports. And I will say, as much as I hate Fox for news, they do a terrific job of sports. I think they're very entertaining. They have a lot of great...
They're passionate and energetic.
Very entertaining, a lot of great broadcasters, a little bit one-sided and a little bit American, but at the same time, they're terrific. They don't know a thing about hockey, so hopefully they'll bring some hockey into that world because Fox Sports is all football all day.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll do that. I think the only thing that could beat Onrait on O'Toole is if they had like two Maggie the monkeys doing the broadcast. Like they just got to get a couple of monkeys, literally, and just stand there and like point and throw.
It's
feces.
funny because they're more like Jay and Dan are more popular in the West too because of their time slot, right? Like you finish up a Western Conference game in the West Coast at about 9:30 or 10.
Oh, crossbar
at about 9:30 or 10, so you get to watch Sports Center. But for the Eastern Conference or for the Eastern fans, they don't even watch the end of Western Conference games. They wake up the next morning to find out the scores.
Yeah.
So there's no way they're watching a 2 a.m. sports show. So unfortunately for Jay and Dan, that's the reason they had to leave. And CTV, you're stupid. You're losing probably the two of the best guys in the industry. So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So that's all the time we have, guys. Hope you liked the show. I apologize if I was a bit nonsensical. I am kind of sick right now. Canucks fans, I don't know what to tell you. Hold your heads up high. We're going to rebuild, and we're going to have a great year next year. Go Sens. They're my new Canadian team now. I'm sorry, Justin.
Oh, come on. Are you kidding me?
Go Sens.
You can't even jump on my bandwagon. You're such a dick.
Go Sens. No, I'd be happy if the Habs won as well. I like the Habs. But
yeah, that's the thing. Is like I say a lot about the Ottawa Senators in this series, and I don't blame any Ottawa Senators for anything that's happened. Like I said, the Greiba hit was a clean hockey hit.
Yeah.
Zabinajad, you got to kick in that puck. You put it in the net any way you can. You hope the call goes your way.
It's playoffs, man.
It's the way it is.
Do what you can to win.
Exactly. So no bad blood against the Ottawa Senators. As much as I usually have a bit of rivalry at the end of something like this, I'm going to hope they go far if they happen to be able to beat the Montreal Canadiens. So we'll see what happens.
And go Leafs. I can't believe I'm saying that. Beat those pesky Bruins. That'd be lovely. And it's still in overtime, so when we talk to you guys next week, we'll have hopefully some results for these series. My name is Andy Cole.
And my name is Justin Boniface. Thanks for listening to the Bandwagoners, guys.
Have a good night.